The battlefield stretched beyond sight, a wasteland of molten glass and shattered steel, where the cries of the wounded mixed with the cold hum of orbiting drones. Kale Ren pressed his back against the wreckage of a fallen transport, his pulse sinking with the distant rhythm of artillery fire. Smoke curled from his armor seams, the display inside his helmet flickering between static and the ghostly outlines of moving targets. Above him, the sky was a burning lattice of starship trails, thin silver scars slicing across a dying world. He was alone now. His unit, Bravo 7, had been wiped out in the ambush hours ago. The communications relay had gone silent, and even the orbital feed was nothing but encrypted noise. Kale's breath came out ragged, his oxygen filter whining. Each inhale brought the acrid scent of plasma discharge and ionized dust. The ground trembled, and a massive shadow crossed over him. At first, he thought it was one of the enemy's heavy walkers, but then he saw her. She stood amidst the smoke like something torn from a dream, her form shifting between flesh and flame. Scales shimmered across her skin like liquid metal, and her eyes, golden, slit-pupilled, glowed through the haze. A dragon in humanoid form, though her movements were uncertain, pained. Blood the color of mercury dripped from a wound in her side, sizzling as it hit the ground. She looked around with the desperate confusion of someone stranded behind enemy lines. Kale froze. His rifle hung in his grasp, trembling slightly. Every training instinct screamed at him to fire. But something about the way she staggered forward stopped him, the way her wings flickered in and out of existence, like her body was struggling to hold its form. She wasn't attacking. She was dying. Then came the sound, the shrill mechanical hiss of scavenger drones locking onto a target. Kale turned to see them rising from the ruins like vultures, plasma barrels rotating, their optical sensors burning red. They were human-made. His side. They didn't differentiate between living enemy or wounded prey, they only followed the command to eliminate. Before he could think, before logic could restrain him, Kale broke cover. He sprinted toward her as the first plasma bolt ripped through the air. The impact hit him square in the chest. His armor flared, overloaded, and he fell forward, the world spinning into fragments of light and color. He felt no pain, only heat, then cold, then nothing. Through the static in his failing visor, he saw her crouch beside him. Her claws brushed the edge of his helmet, hesitant, trembling. Her expression was unreadable, shock, confusion, something deeper. A human had shielded her, a dragon princess of the Dominion, from death itself. She whispered something in her language, a sound like wind over embers. The world dimmed. Kale's last sight was her golden gaze reflecting the explosion of the drones behind her. Then, silence. Except for the faint hum of a ship descending from the clouds above, its light swallowing both human and dragon in its wake. Kale awoke to the sound of a heartbeat that wasn't his own. It pulsed through the floor, through the air, through his veins, steady, mechanical, alive. The world above him glowed faintly blue, translucent walls curving like the inside of a crystal lung. He tried to move, but something soft and weightless pinned him down. Thin silver threads were woven into his skin, glimmering as they pulsed in rhythm with the strange light. The pain was gone, replaced by a cold awareness that his body no longer felt entirely his. When his vision cleared, he saw figures moving beyond a veil of glass. Tall, elegant silhouettes with elongated limbs and luminous eyes, their voices flowing like overlapping tones of music. Alien. Beautiful. Terrifying. They were dragons, but not the beasts from human propaganda, these were beings of intelligence and order, moving with precision as they worked over glowing consoles. He realized he was on one of their ships. The air shimmered, and a shadow stepped through the barrier. Her. The woman from the battlefield. Gone was the chaos of war, now she stood composed, cloaked in a uniform that rippled like living fabric, silver veins pulsing beneath its surface. Her golden eyes caught his every movement. "You live," she said, her voice carrying a resonance that seemed to vibrate in his bones. Kale swallowed hard, forcing words through the dryness of his throat. I shouldn't. Her gaze flickered to the wound on his chest, now a network of alien filaments, glowing faintly where human skin met something not quite organic. You shouldn't, she agreed quietly. But you are changed. The Medcorps had to rebuild what your species could not. He looked down at himself, horror and fascination mixing in his chest. You mean, you rebuilt me? Not I, she said, stepping closer. My ship did. It decided you were worth saving. He let out a shaky laugh. Your ship's got better judgment than most people. For a moment, her lips curved, almost a smile, but it faded as quickly as it appeared. You protected me. You didn't have to. Didn't think about it, he said, eyes unfocused. I just saw someone about to die. Something in her expression shifted, curiosity, maybe disbelief. No human had ever spoken to her like that, not as a creature of power but as someone real. She studied him a moment longer before turning away, her cloak whispering across the polished floor. He watched her go, noticing the faint tremor in her hands as she touched the glass panel. The hum of the ship deepened, and for a second, Cale felt it inside his head, an echo of thought not his own. The ship was alive. It was listening. When the lights dimmed, he lay back, staring at the endless geometry above. Outside the translucent hull, stars drifted past like embers. A war was raging somewhere out there, and he, a human soldier rebuilt by alien hands, was now its contradiction. As he drifted back into uneasy sleep, he heard the woman's voice faintly through the barrier, a whisper meant for no one. Why would a human die for a dragon, she murmured. And though Cale couldn't answer, the question stayed with him, pulsing in time with the strange, alien heart now beating within his chest. Days blurred into one another aboard the draconic vessel, a silent city of crystal and living circuits suspended in endless night. Cale wandered its corridors like a ghost, watched by eyes he could never see. The walls breathed faintly, veins of light pulsing beneath translucent surfaces as though the ship itself carried a heartbeat. When he touched them, he felt warmth, alive, responsive, aware. It frightened him how easily he could sense the vessel's moods, as though something inside him resonated with its core. Seralith appeared often, though never without distance. She would ask him questions about human strategies, weapons, even music, yet always with a tone that suggested more than curiosity. Her soldiers whispered when she passed, lowering their heads, and Cale began to notice the subtle reverence around her, the way the air seemed to hum in her presence. She wasn't just a commander. She was something far higher. One night, or what passed for night in a place without a sun, he found her alone in the observation chamber. The room opened to the stars, their light spilling through shifting crystalline panels. She stood at the center, motionless, gazing into the void. I never thanked you, she said without turning. Her reflection shimmered in the glass, half woman, half flame. Cale hesitated. You don't have to. I do, she replied. Among my kind, life debts carry weight. Yours is inconvenient. He frowned. Inconvenient? She faced him then, her eyes fierce, burning brighter than the stars beyond. Because it binds me. Because I am heir to the Draven Dominion, and I owe my life to an enemy soldier. The truth landed between them like thunder. Cale's pulse quickened. You're the Imperial heir. Yes, she said quietly. And by law, I should have let you die. He took a slow step forward. Then why didn't you? Her voice faltered for the first time. Because I saw something I've never seen on a battlefield. You didn't hesitate. You didn't even know who I was, and still you, she broke off, the words collapsing into silence. Cale looked down at his hands, the faint golden thread still pulsing beneath his skin. Guess compassion isn't supposed to make sense in war. Her gaze softened. No. But it changes things. The ship trembled suddenly, alarms flaring in harmonic tones. The walls lit crimson as the crew rushed to their stations. A fleet of human ships had dropped out of warp, attack formation. Saralitha's expression hardened. "Stay here," she commanded, striding toward the exit. But Kale grabbed her wrist. "You'll be outnumbered, let me help. You would fight your own. I'll fight whoever's still trying to burn the stars down." For a heartbeat, she stared at him as if seeing something impossible. Then she nodded once. "Then come." As they raced down the corridor toward the command deck, the ship's lights shifted to a deep, electric blue. Somewhere within its core, Kale felt a pull, like the vessel itself recognized him. For the first time, he wondered if that bullet had done more than just save her life. Perhaps, on that battlefield, it had rewritten both of theirs. The ship tore through the stormed corridors of hyperspace, its hull wreathed in rippling light. Kale sat strapped in beside Saralith on the bridge, the air alive with the pulse of energy fields and the low hum of translation drives. Outside, human warships followed in relentless pursuit, their plasma torpedoes carving molten trails across the void. Every blast shook the vessel, sending fractured light through its crystalline veins. "We can't outrun them," Kale shouted over the sound of tearing metal. Saralitha's hands danced across the controls, living panels that responded to touch like breathing skin. "I am not running," she said, voice calm, controlled. "We're heading for Kirith." He had seen the name flash on the navigation matrix, Kirith, a barren moon orbiting a shattered world. "There's nothing there but ruins." Her eyes flicked toward him. "Exactly." Moments later, the ship plunged into the planet's upper atmosphere, the hull singing under friction. Lightning crawled across the sky in ribbons of pale blue, illuminating a vast expanse of crumbled towers and metallic dust. They landed hard, carving a scar across the obsidian plain. Kale stumbled as the ramp descended, heat swirling from the engines. The air was thin, shimmering with static. "This place," he murmured. "It feels wrong." Saralith knelt beside a half-buried structure, her claws tracing alien glyphs etched in stone and alloy. "It was once right," she said softly. "Long ago, humans and dragons built this together. Before the wars. Before memory turned alliance into myth. They entered the ruins, guided by flickering light from Kale's gauntlet. The corridors whispered with echoes, shadows of voices, images of long-forgotten unity. Strange symbols glowed faintly as they passed, and Kale felt them respond to his presence, just as the ship had. "Why do these things react to me?" he asked. Saralith hesitated before answering. "Because the biocircuitry we used to heal you wasn't ours alone. It came from hybrid technology, something ancient, forbidden. The same essence that once linked our races." Her voice trembled slightly. "Kale, you are no longer entirely human." He stared at her, stunned. "So what am I?" "Something new," she said. "Something the stars themselves may have been waiting for." Before he could reply, the ground quaked. Drones poured into the valley, followed by armored human infantry. Their weapons glowed in the dust, their orders clear: capture the dragon heir, eliminate the traitor. Saralith extended her arm, and flame burst from her fingertips, twisting into spirals of energy. Kale fired back with plasma bursts, the hybrid circuits in his body amplifying each shot. Together, they fought amid the relics of peace long forgotten. When the battle finally fell silent, smoke coiled above the ruins like incense. Saralith turned to him, her expression torn between sorrow and awe. "The prophecy of the covenant," she whispered. "Two souls, one human, one dragon, bound to end the cycle of war." Kale looked up at the broken sky, the storm's glow reflecting in his eyes. "Prophecy or not," he said quietly, "I'm not letting this end the same way it began." And somewhere deep beneath the ruins, the ancient machinery stirred, recognizing the return of what the universe had once lost. They came for him before dawn cycle, the hum of containment drones breaking the fragile silence of Kiritha's ruins. Kale barely had time to reach for his weapon before a pulse wave slammed him against a wall, his vision fracturing into white shards. When he woke again, he was encased in cold light, his limbs restrained by gravitic bands. Through the transparent barrier he saw the insignia of the Human Alliance flicker. He was aboard one of their dreadnoughts. The air smelled of sterilized metal and betrayal. A voice cut through the haze, sharp and familiar. "You're a hard man to kill, soldier." Admiral Terran paced before the cell, his uniform gleaming beneath sterile lights. "A pity your loyalty didn't survive the war." Kale's throat felt dry as he forced the words out. "There's no loyalty left in this war. Only survivors." The Admiral's jaw tightened. "You saved her. You fought beside her. The Imperial heir of the Draven Dominion. Do you realize what that makes you?" Kale met his stare. "Human." The Admiral's face hardened. "No. It makes you an infection." He turned away, giving a nod to the guards. "Prepare the extraction unit. We'll pull whatever they implanted in him. Even if it kills him." The door sealed, leaving Kale in the hum of machines and his own pulse. But deep within, he felt something stir. The golden filaments beneath his skin began to glow, responding to a signal far away. He closed his eyes, and for a moment, he heard her voice, soft, distant, carried through the static of the stars. "Hold on, Kale." He didn't know how, but Saralith was alive. And coming. Hours later, the ship trembled violently. Sirens blared, lights flickered, and the hull groaned under the impact of plasma fire. The guards rushed out, leaving Kale alone as power conduits burst overhead. The bands restraining him flickered and failed. He tore free, the hybrid energy burning beneath his skin. The corridors outside were chaos, smoke, screams, gunfire. When he reached the main viewport, he saw it, a silver shape cutting through the void, wings of living flame unfurling from its sides. Saralith's ship. But she wasn't alone. Smaller vessels followed, piloted by defectors from both races, those who had chosen her call for peace. Kale forced open a calm terminal. "Saralith, it's me. You're flying into a trap." Her voice answered through the static, fierce and clear. "Then let's bring it together." Moments later, a hatch exploded open beside him, and a surge of white light engulfed the corridor. Saralith stepped through, armored in radiant scales, her eyes burning like twin suns. She extended a hand toward him. "Ready to end this?" she asked. Kale clasped her hand, the circuit in his palm flaring gold. "Let's give them a reason to remember us." They sprinted toward the hangar as the dreadnought's reactor alarms screamed. Outside, fleets of humans and dragons clashed above the red skies of Eldra. And somewhere within that storm of fire and light, two figures prepared to do what no empire had ever dared, end the war that had begun before either of their worlds learned to dream. The skies of Eldra burned like twin suns colliding. Human warships and draconic cruisers clashed in vast arcs of fire, their weapons turning the upper atmosphere into molten glass. Kale and Saralith raced through the dreadnought's ruptured corridors, pursued by collapsing bulkheads and ruptured gravity fields. The ship was dying, its course spiraling toward detonation, yet ahead, through the chaos, they could see the hybrid vessel they had once awakened on Kirith, waiting like a promise reborn. They reached the hangar as a blast tore through the deck. Kale was thrown forward, rolling across the scorched metal. Saralith helped him up, her scaled armor cracked, wings flickering between light and shadow. "The fleets won't stop," she said, breath trembling. "They'll burn both worlds before they surrender." Kale looked toward the hybrid ship, its crystalline core pulsing with gold and blue light. "Then we stop them ourselves." The vessel responded as they stepped inside, systems awakening with a harmonic resonance that filled the air. The control chamber shimmered like liquid glass. Saralith took the central helm, her fingers merging with the interface, while Kale stood beside her, the filaments beneath his skin blazing. The ship recognized them both, not pilot and passenger, but one will divided by two bodies. Core synchronization complete, a voice murmured, neither machine nor alive, but something in between. The ship ascended through the burning clouds. Outside, the battle spread across the horizon, millions of lives caught in blind hatred. Kale reached toward the reactor conduit, feeling it respond like a heartbeat. If we merge the cores, he said quietly, we can override their targeting systems. But it'll drain everything, me included. Seralith turned, her gaze fierce and fragile all at once. No. You've given enough. He smiled faintly. So have you. The ship's core began to glow, a fusion of dragonfire and human circuitry. The energy spiraled outward, expanding faster than thought. Across the sky, targeting arrays went dark, missile systems froze, engines stalled. Every ship in orbit hung suspended, powerless beneath the golden radiance pouring from the hybrid vessel. Kale stood at the heart of the light, his body dissolving into it, his voice echoing softly. Tell them, this is what peace looks like. The brilliance consumed him. The hybrid ship transformed into a radiant sigil in the heavens, its energy wave washing across the fleets, disarming weapons, nullifying reactors, silencing war itself. When the light faded, silence reigned. The human and draconic fleets drifted, weapons dead, engines cooling. On the planet below, dawn broke through the ashes. Seralith descended alone, her armor dimmed, her eyes reflecting both grief and purpose. Before the united councils of both species, she spoke the words Kale had left behind, about unity born from sacrifice, about courage that had no race. And when they named the new treaty, they called it the Covenant of Flame and Flesh. Years later, children on both worlds would look to the night sky and see the faint shimmer of gold still burning among the stars. The light of the human who took a bullet for a dragon, and the heir who taught empires what it meant to love beyond fear.